This year at the Nolanders Trophy I came across air pruning Thai pots. And I met up with the owner of the brand, Jens. And Jens gave me this pot to try.
Thank you so much. I'll do review you posted and I'll keep you posted.
I was a little bit skeptical, but after all, pond baskets work as well. And what you see here, there are lots and lots and lots of little drainage holes, but also here at the side there are holes, and if you look at the inside there's little ridges. The idea is that any root that grows up to the wall and wants to circle, hits a ridge, goes down and then ends up in these air pockets, killing off the tips, and with that you get lots and lots of new roots on the inside of the pot. This elm has been in a few demos. I've shown you a few things of this and I'm not really keen on growing it out. On the other hand, it makes a very nice suspect to plant in this pot. I'm not going to make it any more complex than needed. I'm going to take it out of this pot. Then I'm going to check. Yes, there's lots and lots of circling roots. So I'm going to untangle these a little bit. Then I'm going to plant the whole thing in this pot and just let it grow for a year, and next spring I'll take it out of the pot and we'll see what it looks like. And really, I'm not going to do a lot of work. However, these are actually good scissors, so I'm not tempted to go in and delve deeper. Just regular substrate that I always use, so I'm not using anything special. I'm also not going to tie it in the pot. It's a small tree, it should be stable enough. Plant it in place, fill it up with substrate and be done. Let's get it watered and let's see it again in a couple of months. Right, this is doing remarkably well now. Time to thin this out a little bit and then I can show you what these knobs are for. But before I do, let me just remove all the branches that I don't need. So basically I'm going here in the top and there's a lot of these small branches. And here in the small branches here in the top, they just clutter up the view. So I'm removing everything that's growing on the inside towards the inside and cannot be used as a proper side branch in the future. Clusters of more than 2. This is quite a long extension that I don't need in the top. Same for this one. Use directional pruning. Here also. So this is how I go through the whole tree, right? I'm just going to remove everything that I feel is overly heavy and overly long. Now, and these little nubbins are of course to aid in positioning the branches, right? This is scrap wire that I just have left over from unwiring, and what you can do is that you say, well, I'm going to connect one of these wires here on the nubbin. Doesn't have to be all that strong. And then I can just take this branch and wire it down just by folding a loop around it. And that is very nice if you just want to move it down. I actually want to try and see. I want this as my front, right? So this branch really needs to go into that direction. So I'm going to take a much longer one. This is not long enough. Or actually is it? It might be. All the way on this side, and at the base I am connecting the wire to the attachment. Look at that. So now, without the risk of real wiring scars, I've moved this branch down and out. This I could of course also say I could want it a lot more down. So let me grab a piece of wire. I connect it here to the tie down point and then push the branch down, hook it around the branch. It's not that easy because I also don't want the branch to snap off and I don't want it to be just bending here. I want to bend it here at the attachment. So I am not completely convinced. It does work, but it's not very easy. Well, there it goes again. I think that is okay for now. then this is of course the continuation that I want to keep, and therefore this is not as important, and I might actually reduce this significantly. And I could do the same with this one, for instance. That could come down a little bit, but if you just look from the front, it's not bothering anybody. In fact, it's actually quite long. I can just reduce it and then build my pad from here on. This is quite long. Certainly here in the top you need to keep track of all these branches because they fatten up so quickly. And look at this, this is as fat as the main trunk line. And in fact, I should consider correcting that while I can. And this now of course can go back into the garden to grow for another little bit. There's roots already here at the bottom of the pot, so I'm really curious to see how the air pruning happens in these pots. Mid-July, and one thing is very clear. Growth is amazing. Now this hook that I put here can come off. This branch is just way too long now, but I can now quite easily take this, hook it over at a different spot, pull it down further and connect it. So this is already a bonus. This works really well. Next to that, this top branch has gotten really, really long, and the cut that I made here earlier is almost closed. And in fact, this nasty cut here in the back is also about a third of the way to closed. I'm just going to remove the top and leave the stump. Well, you look at that. The sacrifice was bigger than the tree. Now the whole tree of course looks again like a little bit of a tree. Besides that, I now just need to prune it back and let it grow again for a couple of months. These will have to strengthen, which they now will because there's so much that I have removed. And basically with that, I think this is ready to go back into the garden for now. Right, a full year has passed. Time to see whether this grow pot, these air pruning pots, do a lot for the roots. I'm going to take it out of the pot, and what I then expect, if the pot works, is to not have a... Now if I take it out of the pot, I expect there to not be a lot of circling roots if the pot works as advertised. There shouldn't be very long roots, there shouldn't be very heavy roots, there should be only very thin feeder roots. Moment of truth. It's fairly stuck in this pot. The roots have actually gone through the bottom. So much for the air pruning, right? Wow. There we go. Well, so there's heavy roots, but these are the roots that have gone through and grown into the ground. So that's not really fair. Let's have a look here. This does look like a fairly fine root ball, and indeed there's not a lot of circling growth here. Can you see that? There's a few here, a few of these longer roots, but none of these have really grown out to be very long, heavy roots. So let's go in, and I'm going to pretty much bare root it. I'm actually not going to develop this tree anyway, unless there's really interesting things. Let me get a root hook. I'm going to delve in. Well, okay, I must say, these roots, they do look pretty good. Look at that. So these pots seem to aid indeed using air pruning to create a very nice fine mass of roots. Don't see any big heavy roots in here, except for one there, and I suspect that this is the one that actually dove, that this is the one that dove deep through the pot and came out at the bottom, because for the rest it looks pretty good. there's here this one big root. No, this has not broken off. So this is actually just one big root. It does have a whole mass of smaller roots on it. Here's a circling root, to be honest. So yeah, final conclusion. What do I say? What do I think of these air pruning pots? Let's be fair. The knobs on the side are very, very useful to pull branches down. On the other hand, 2 or 3 times over the year I had my watering hose pass by and then hook into one of these. So I just pulled the pot around. But yeah, that's just my logistics and not a fault of the pot. So these hooks are very beneficial. The little holes, well, you see some roots managed to go through, but then again it was standing on the ground, so that's not really fair. On the bench, probably these would have been air pruned as well. And if we look at the whole root ball, mostly these are fine roots, also here at the base. So this is pretty decent in creating a lot of fine roots at the base of your tree. So if you're developing your tree and it's in the early stages and you're still working on getting nice nebari set up, this might actually work quite well. So I'm quite pleased with these. Yeah, nice product. Give it a try, I would say. And once again, no, I'm not being paid to do this. Yes, I did receive that pot for free to try it and make an honest video about it. Well, this is my conclusion, and actually these are the roots that I have. You draw your own conclusions. This was Jelle. Bonsai grow pots, air pruning pots. Do they work? Are they useful? Make up your mind. By the way, if you like this sort of content, you know what to do, right? Hit subscribe.